Assalamualaikum and welcome back to another video with Sir Shazwan. So today we'll be looking at supporting details, which is one part of what we have discussed in the previous lesson. So without little further ado, let's look at what is supporting details. Right, by the end of this chapter, you should be able to recognize and evaluate types of supporting details, because there are various types of supporting details that you can use whenever you are doing your writing, or there are some different types of supporting details that have been used whenever they are in a reading passage. Right. Identify the major and minor details, because those two have they are different things, but they are talking about the same particular part. Right. And then differentiate between facts and opinions. So all this that we'll be able to identify by the end of this chapter, as well as recognize patterns of organization, because sometimes when you are reading a lot of the articles or journals, or maybe the text that you are reading, they are being done in different patterns of organization. So it is good for you if you are able to recognize it. Then let's look at the types of supporting details. There are several types that you usually use whenever you are writing or in reading, or even in speaking. Right, so the first thing is examples, okay? And then we have illustrations, definitions, statistics, testimonies, research findings, observations, personal experiences, and historical data. So these are 9 different supporting details are used interchangeably within any kind of reading passages. So you are able to identify them, then you are on the way to becoming a critical reading expert. So now let's look at one by one. So the first thing is examples. So an example is an instance of something you want to give you want to show about that thing. Okay? So it is used to explain the topic sentence or the main idea of the paragraph more effectively. So you can the examples can be brief or even elaborate depending on how you want to use it. Because it can be brief when you want to just give a short example, or it can be elaborate whenever you want to explore the topic sentence or the main idea even more with elaborate examples. Okay? So example is very easy. When you talk about, there are a lot of cases. One of the main cases that are being talked about is social cases. For example, one major causes or one major for example, one major issue that we can see from this social issue is that so you give example because you want to give a more clear idea of what you have mentioned in the previous one. Okay, right. Illustrations they are specific and detailed examples, meaning that they can be in the form of pictures, graphs, charts, those kinds of things. Okay, they are used to explain general statements, add interest, vigor, and power to your writing. Because when you don't have illustrations, sometimes they might be just a bit too boring and dry. Okay, whenever you have illustrations, then people will be interested to read. They will feel, alright, this reading passage is very good because they have illustrations. They show detailed examples of the situation you want to tell the audience. Okay? And then you will be able to help express yourselves more vividly and precisely, because whenever you have illustration, it is becoming clear on what you want to mention about to the audience. Okay? To the readers especially. Illustrations are introduced in paragraphs using the following transitional expressions. For example, you use for instance. The illustration below shows the current situation of something. Okay, or you can use for example as well. And then an illustration of this, as well as a case in point is those kinds of transitional expressions you can use whenever you want to introduce an illustration. Okay. Definitions. So a definition gives an explanation of a term, an idea, or a concept. You give the definition of, for example, you use a term that maybe people don't understand about, maybe they don't know about. So you give definition to that term or idea or concept. So the main idea is that you want to let the reader become better acquainted with what you want to talk about. Okay, this can be done by comparing other similar subjects, focusing on key differences between them and your subject, and providing examples in defining an abstract concept. Definition, sometimes you can use the definition from a dictionary, maybe the ones that you can find online. So those can be called definitions. So you want to explain a term, an idea or a concept, you use definition. Okay. Whenever the reader understand about the definition, then yes, they will be able to understand better about the topic that you want to talk to them about. Okay. Statistics, those are related with numbers and such. Okay, they refer to data, information, facts, figures, numbers, and details. Statistics involves collection, classification, analysis, interpretation, and inferences. Whenever you do analysis, you do classifying, you collect data, you interpret data, you infer from the data, those are called statistics. So, any kind of number that you want to use, for example, maybe you want to use the year, maybe you want to use the percentage, maybe you want to show off about the numbers between this year and that year, so those are called statistics. Those are usually used in research articles, okay? But a statistic is something that has been decided upon objectively, meaning that there is an objective there, and then they have been carried out, and then they have found the numbers that explains about the objective. Okay, can be externally verified, meaning that the data can be found anywhere easily and it is true. Gives your argument authority, meaning that whenever you argue about something, it's not like you are being angry or what, but whenever you give your opinion, when you support it with a statistic, meaning that your argument is stronger and there are some validity in your arguments. Alright, testimonies. A testimony is an acknowledgement or authentication of a fact. So is this given by a person who has experienced or witnesses the fact, and it is presented verbally or in writing. Meaning, whenever you want to talk like about a certain idea, and then you want to give out the testimony, meaning that it happened to you, and then you want to tell about it. So that is called testimony. So it can be used as part of your supporting details. Whenever you have like, you want to present about a topic, and then the main idea is that maybe it has happened before to you, you want to use testimony? Yes, you can use. Research findings. It is similar to statistics, where you find out the research findings of a research that has been done before. A research is a systematic investigative process carried out to increase or revise current knowledge by discovering new facts. Research findings are the principal outcomes of any research project. So whatever whatever they find in that particular research, that is the research finding, and you can use it as your supporting details. So research is normally done by a researcher or a group of researchers. So the keywords that you can use to present research findings, they include study, research finding, statistics, name of the researchers involved, year of the research. So those are the ones that you can use whenever you want to present research finding. For example, Ali and Abu 2019 found that there are certain things that happen, that certain things. For example, that is how you use research finding. So in 2000, a study done by a study has been done to identify the main issue of procrastination. So those kinds of things that you can use for your supporting details. It is very good when you use research findings, because you automatically whatever you argue is going to be strong. Okay, because you have supports which is based on a research that has been done. Okay, observations. Whatever you see, you hear, you feel, or those kinds of things. Okay. Observation involves collecting and recording information using our senses of sight, your eyes, smell, your nose, touch, your hands, hearing, your ears, and your taste, which is your mouth. Okay? Whatever you experience, whatever you see, whatever you smell, whatever you hear, you touch, those can be part of observations. Okay? Personal experiences, whatever you yourself experience. So it can be defined as a skill or knowledge gained from doing and sensing something over a period of time. Okay, from small until now, you're learning English, that can be part of your personal experiences. Okay. Historical data which are based on history or past events. So it's a past information or data. Alright. So this includes information about events and people in the past. For example, our Independence Day 1957. That is historical data. Whatever happens in the past that you want to include as your supporting details, those can be historical data. Any kind of event, any kind of like issues or something that happens in the past, that can be your supporting details. This historical data can be a basis for forecasting future data or trends. We want to see whether it will happen again or no. For example, previously people wear long and big pants in the past. Currently, people are wearing very slim and tight-fitting jeans. But now, there are trends in people moving towards wearing big and baggy pants. So, you can try to find out historical data that talks about the history of the pants, evolution or something like that. Okay, there is an example which you can use. Right, let's look at major and minor details, what those two are about. So a paragraph consists of a main idea and some supporting details. Supporting details in a paragraph can function as major or minor details. This is a graph, the picture showing the inner working of a paragraph. So we have the paragraph, then we have the main idea and the supporting details, and then the supporting details will be separated into major and minor details. So major details are general ideas that support the main idea of a text. This includes reasons, points in an argument, points in comparison, or further elaboration of a main idea. Meaning that after you have given the main idea that is in the first sentence, those that comes after that can be a major details as well as minor detail. But whenever it is called a reason, points in an argument, whenever you elaborate on the idea, that is called major details. Okay. But then, minor details are specific that illustrate or support the major details. Okay. There are several signal words that are used to introduce major and minor details. Okay, let's look at some of them. So, whenever you want to show that you are talking about a major detail, you use first, second, third, one, another, furthermore, those signal words. Okay? For example, first thing, one of the major causes of child abuse is something. So that is the major detail. And then when you want to talk about a minor detail, something that expands more on the major detail, let's make it very specific. You use, for example, an example, for instance, those signal words that is on the screen right now. Okay, so those words show how important your detail is. Okay, when you use signal words that show major detail, it shows that the detail is very important and it shows a lot on what you want to talk about, the main idea. Whereas the minor detail is just an addition that you can put after you continue with the major detail. Okay, and then, right, this is another crucial crucial thing that you need to know is that you need to be able to differentiate between facts and opinions. What are the difference between those two? Let's look. Right. The information given in a paragraph can be one of three types. They can be facts, they can be opinions, and they can be incorrect information. Incorrect information meaning that the information given is totally wrong. Okay? It's not true, it's not available, so that is incorrect information. Okay. Facts are correct or true information from reliable sources, which can be verified to experience, research, observation, or experimentation. So remember, facts is the truth. Okay, it can be verified. It can be, it is valid. Okay, whereas opinions are information which cannot be verified to experience, research, observation, or experimentation, cannot be proved or disproved, and they are based on beliefs and judgment. So what does it mean by it cannot be verified? Because opinions are based on what you yourself believe. Every single person doesn't have the same opinions, okay? They might have, but it might come in a different way. So opinions cannot be verified to experience because person A and person B experience things differently. Maybe even though they have the same opinions, but they have different experiences which made them come up with that opinion. Okay? A research cannot be used to verify opinions. Okay? And opinions cannot be proved or disproved, meaning that it cannot be said that it is wrong, but at the same time, you cannot say it is right. Okay? It is in the middle ground. So, how do you want to make sure your opinions is at least correct? You support it with facts. Okay? So whenever you can, when you give out your opinions, make sure you support it with something that is strong and the truth. Meaning that your opinions should be supported with something that is facts. Alright? Now, patterns of organization. Every kind of reading passage will be organized in certain patterns depending on their purpose. Okay? So it can come in the form of a narrative, descriptive, exemplification, process, compare and contrast, advantage and disadvantage, cause and effect, problem and solution, spatial, and topical, as well as chronological. So these are some of the patterns that we have for a reading passage organization. So most of the reading passages that we have will be organized in this particular form. So we look at each patterns of organization. So the first thing, narratives. Narratives aim to tell a story or in order to explain or illustrate a point, meaning that you want to talk about a particular story or topic. Just you want to describe. So you use transitions of time and space, and it contains process and descriptive details of people, places, or events. Because narratives is just like you are telling a story. There are a flow from what happened to what happened and then to what thing happens. Okay? So that is narratives. And then they have time phrases describing the past, because sometimes when you want to talk about your narratives, you might use an event in the past. So you need to have time phrases describing the past. Okay, that is narratives. You are just want to tell about a story. Okay. Descriptions. Descriptive pattern uses vivid sensory words to talk about people, places, things, and ideas. You are describing about a person or a place or things or ideas. So you use adjectives, adverbs, those descriptive words that show about the particular thing that you want to talk about. Okay? Exemplifications. An exemplification essay makes use of clear examples to demonstrate or explain a point. So the example should be relevant, clear, specific. So whenever you want to use an exemplification essay, meaning that whenever you talk about a topic, you give a lot of examples which clearly show about the topic that you want to talk about. And then the examples that you give should be relevant, meaning that it's very recent, which is very up to date. And then clear, meaning that the examples won't be problematic, or maybe it's not won't hinder with understanding within about the topic, as well as specific. It is about the topic that you want to talk about. Processes or sequentials. Okay, this kind of pattern is used to explain a process or steps on how to do something. They use a lot of transition words. For example, used for time, sometimes such as then, next, finally. For enumeration, when you start with first, second, fourth, maybe you want to talk about how to cook something, maybe you want to talk about how to create something. So you use processes or sequentials. There is a sequence from the beginning, you move into the next part, and then you finish at the end. So that is a process there. Okay. Compare and contrast patterns. Okay. You arrange information according to how or more things are similar or different from one another or both. Okay. So whenever you talk about compare and contrast, maybe you want to talk about two things. Okay. You want to compare and contrast between two different things. Okay. So you talk about the first thing, and then in the same paragraph you talk about the second thing. You want to show the differences and the similarities between those things. And then move to the next body paragraph, you talk about the differences and the similarities as well. Okay? So that is how you show compare and contrast patterns. Okay? Maybe they are similar, maybe they are different, or maybe they are having the same thing. Okay. Disadvantage and advantage patterns. Advantage and disadvantage patterns. Okay? This one, they organize information of a topic by dividing it into good and bad parts, pros and cons, and it is used when the author wishes to objectively discuss both sides of an issue. For example, advantage and disadvantage of using mobile phones. So you want to show the good thing of using mobile phones and the bad thing of using mobile phones. That is advantage and disadvantage of patterns. Okay, there are two. You have a topic, you divide it into the advantage and then disadvantage, and then whether you want to talk about one side or both. Okay. Usually, when you talk advantage and disadvantage, you want to talk about both sides, right? Cause and effect patterns. So the cause and effect pattern analyzes the causes and effects of something or the relationship between them. Because the aim is that for you to explain the cause of a reason or something, and you use transitional words which include because, in effect, given that, since, and for that reason. For example, there are several causes of pollution. That is the simplest example I can give you. So there are one of the main causes of pollution is people dumping trash in the river. So because of that, so you talk about the cause of pollution is people dumping in the river, then you give the effect there as well. So because of that, the river has been polluted, and then people cannot get clear drinking water from the river. So you show the cause and then the effect at the same paragraph. Okay, that is how you use cause and effect patterns. So you want to explain the cause and the effect, you have several transitional words that you can use. Okay, as shown in the screen now. Problem and solution patterns. This is similar to cause and effect because you give two information in two main sections. Okay, this is similar to advantage and disadvantage. Sorry. So the two sections that you have is one that describes a problem, and then another that describes a solution. So maybe you want to talk about the problems that happens. People are being. A lot of people are having trouble in keeping money. The problem is that. So maybe you talk about the problem to describe one. Maybe people are being they're spending too much money on in unnecessary things, and maybe they have issues with keeping money. So that is the problem, and then you provide a solution. You recommend what kind of solution that they can have. For example, they can keep their money in their bank, and then they can talk to others about it. Okay, so that is problem and solution patterns. Okay. Spatial patterns. Spatial patterns, spatial. Okay, pattern of organization arranges information according to how things fit together in physical space, meaning that where one thing exists in relation to another. Okay, this is usually using in geographical methods, topics. Okay, because sometimes you want to show the location of things in a certain physical space. For example, you want to talk about Kedah and Penang as well as and the rest. Okay, Kedah is at the north before Perlis, whereas to the east we have Kelantan, those kinds of things, because we want to show the space between several areas. Okay. Usually spatial patterns are not used unless you are doing geographical topics. Okay. Topical patterns. This is the commonly used patterns of organization, because you are talking about a particular topic, so they arrange it in according to different subtopics with a larger topic. So you have one big topic and then you have subtopics which talk about the main topic that you are telling about. So types of things that fall within a larger category. Okay. And then we have chronological patterns. Topical patterns is just easily explain it as how you break down a main topic into different subtopics. Okay. Chronological patterns arranges supporting details in a paragraph according to a movement of time. You can either move forwards or backward in time. So historical events, narratives and process patterns are commonly presented using this pattern of organization. The patterns that we have discussed just now are actually under chronological patterns. Okay, so there are movement from A to B to C to D. So there is a process there. So there is chronological. Okay. So this pattern uses dates or time of events. For example, 1883, last year, or at 2 p.m. They use transitional words. First, next, how, after that, and finally. Okay, we have reached at the end of the lesson. So, sentences in a paragraph can be analyzed according to types of supporting details, major or minor details, facts or opinions, and patterns of organization. So those 4 things can be used to analyze the sentences that are developed in a paragraph. So whenever you are doing critical reading, you need to be able to identify what are the supporting details, and from those you can try to identify where is the major and then the minor details, and as well as look at whether it is facts or opinions. And then when you read through the whole thing, you can try to identify the patterns of organization. So thank you very much for listening to me. My name is Sir Shazwan, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.